Well, hello, Dickie. Welcome to Composer Now. Thank you for being our guest on this our second episode.
Well, thank you for having me, Josh.
Pleasure. Pleasure's all ours, all mine. Is it true? Are you in London at the moment?
I am. I'm in Bethnal Green.
Ah, I've got this idea that you live in a sort of bohemian warehouse situation.
That's absolutely right.
I sort of want to explain to everybody who you are.
Oh,
Well, I wonder if I should try and do it, and then
yeah.
you can fill in the gaps if you like.
I like that.
So, Dickie Beau, you are a theatre maker, a drag fabulist, you're no stranger to the stage. You make work for video in the video media. Did I mention the stage? And you've also been in a few films. And each time I talk to your career, sort of going, it's going up like that. Always sounds very exciting. Did I miss anything out? Do you want to tell us more?
No, I think that sounds like a good summary.
Good. Well, I was going to say
Yeah.
that for me, lip sync is a sort of a way that I found.
Yeah.
Well, no, I didn't find it, but maybe I think I saw you doing it first, and then Thick and Tight, the duo Thick and Tight doing it. And I thought that was a brilliant way for me to meld sound and movement together, two things which are very important to me. But when you speak about ghosts, I know you have an even more richer, whimsical sort of approach to lip sync or understanding of what it is or what's going on there. Would you like to talk about it from your end?
Sure. Yeah. So, yeah, there's a kind of relationship to spiritualism that that is part of my relationship to lip syncing. Not that I buy spiritualism, but when I just mentioned that I did a Kenneth Williams lip sync. When I did this Kenneth Williams lip sync, a cabaret reviewer gave me this great quote, and they said, "Oh, Dickie Beau is the closest this country has to a genuine medium," and because of the way that I put flesh onto recorded sound, and I thought, oh, and I'm sure I'd thought about that. I'm sure I'd thought about that, but it really sort of landed, and I thought, oh yes, no, it really is quite like being a medium, isn't it? And as in the leader of a séance, and I was talking about this with an artist friend who said, you should read this book called An Anthropology of Images by Hans Belting. And so I did. And in this book, Hans Belting talks about the history of human image making as it pertains to the funereal realm, death. And so he goes back to like the early Neolithic settlements where the examples of human image making there, those earliest examples would be like stone death masks, Well, the gravestone is merely an evolution of that original idea. The headstone, the stone made of head became the headstone. And what would happen in that time was, if your father died, let's say, I'm thinking of Hamlet and his father dying. If your father died, then you would bury your father under the floor of your mud hut, and possibly quite quickly, depending on the climate. And what's happened when your father's died is that his body has become an image of him. You know what I mean? And I remember this when my grandmother died. I recognized this body as belonging to her, but I couldn't see her in the body anymore.
Yes.
Because she wasn't there. So what it does to extend that is the body makes present the idea of the person at the same time as it makes present the fact that they're gone. You see what I mean? So it becomes the presence of an absence. And Hans Belting says that that's what all images do. They are and they mean the presence of an absence. Roland Barthes talked about this in terms of the photograph and said that the photograph has a voice which says this thing has been, is no more, and furthermore is not here. And the word medium, you know, I'd always thought of medium as having, I suppose, two meanings. One being in the terms of like the leader of the seance, you know, the medium that channels the ghost. And the other being in the terms of fine art, the material carrier of the image. Well, the material carrier of the image is actually the material carrier of the imago, you know, image coming from the Latin imago meaning ghost. So they're both actually the same thing.
I'd like to introduce a piece of yours, a video of yours, if you'd like to do that. So we can see that in action. How about what should we look at? The Olden Lobes to begin with.
Sure. So the audio for this came from a talk that Peter Sellers, the opera director, gave at a symposium called the School of Sound one year, in which I was also a speaker. I was talking about lip syncing, the sort of stuff that I was just saying to you about lip syncing being a way of making absence present. So he, in a sort of peculiar way, sort of almost picked up from where I left off just by coincidence. And I was really taken with the content of his talk. So I contacted him and asked him if I could use it in performance. I wasn't sure exactly how at that point, but I just knew that by virtue of my lip syncing to what he was saying, there was a crackle to that.
I started working in the puppet theater when I was 10 years old. And at that time in the history of puppetry, what was very exciting was the advent of sound, because what you could do is pre-record the entire puppet show, and because you were behind a little curtain or a castle, the audience doesn't know the show is pre-recorded. And then you can work the puppets to the tape, and you can concentrate on really refined manipulation of the puppet when you don't have to at the same time create the dialogue. And the dislocation of the sound to the image meant that then the image was put in question. And we suddenly begin to realize that what you look at is the world of appearances. And there's something beneath, deeper than a world of appearances. Now, we know this from, a beautiful tradition of the Greek theater. As you know, the Greek theater was primarily a sound instrument, right? The amphitheaters remain these astounding acoustical marvels in which it's carving a giant ear into the side of a mountain and putting 5,000 people, situating them in this ear that you've made out of stone and flesh. And those 5,000 people are, through acoustical engineering, able to hear with perfect clarity the sound of one person. We live in a period where architecture is totally focused on visuals. And of course, so many of the great sacred structures are sound devices. And the Greek amphitheater was about deep listening. It was about democracy is about your ability to listen, to hear a voice you wouldn't otherwise hear. And democracy becomes about how do you listen, not just how do you speak. Greek democracy was, let's face it, a little bit challenged, but was a beautiful moment before it was totally unraveled by money. I know that doesn't sound familiar. What is that? Okay, never mind. Let's go back. Greek democracy also had one other slight limit, which was it was really perfect for men. But of course, if you were a woman, a child, a foreigner, or a slave, you had no voice. You could not speak in the Senate. You could not vote. Now, what's interesting about the Greek theater is the city council would pay for your ticket if you couldn't afford it. Pericles, at that height of Athenian democracy, actually would pay audience members a full day's agricultural wages so that they would not lose anything economically by spending the day at the theater. It was that important to be a citizen. You had to go to the theater. You had to be inside this deep listening device, and you had to listen to whose voice? What's pretty interesting is the name of every surviving Greek play is the name of a woman, a child, a slave, or a foreigner.
I've got a sneeze coming up for you.
Have you? Okay.
We can do that because we're in different spaces. We're going to finish up with a video called Minette. Would you tell us a little bit about Minette? How you made it, where the sound's from,
Yes,
please?
I can. So that material comes from an interview that Minette gave to a chap called Stephen Watson and a guy called Joe E. Jeffries, who is an intrepid drag documenter. He recorded this performance at the Bethnal Green Working Men's Club, and he showed it to Stephen Watson, who then emailed me to encourage me, and was really delighted that I'd used his audio, which was an unexpected piece of correspondence. So then I can't remember exactly how it happened, but perhaps he sent me a link to some other stuff, or I may have already discovered Minette, but I then asked him if I could use other audio, and so Minette was a female impersonator. This video is part of a longer form show called Lost in Trance, which was, loosely speaking, I called it a poem in motion, and it was like a re-visioning of its metamorphosis.
Well, Dickie Beau, what a pleasure it has been for me to have you on here.
Oh, well, it's lovely
interview.
talking to you as always.
We have to say goodbye, and we're going to head to Vienna, where we're going to watch Minette with Kosi. She's going to give us a reaction video. Thank you, Dickie.
Cheerio, Josh.
Hey, we need to watch this. Where is it? Come on. Well, here it is.
She calls herself a female impersonator, but we don't know who she's doing an impression of. I did an act. I did impressions of the stars.
Okay.
They're Ruth Etting and Marie Chevalier and Eddie Cantor.
Ah, I know them.
And
Wow.
I would have done the Boswell sisters, only have one head. Ethel Waters introduced that in 28
Waters.
in
Hey,
vaudeville.
wow, it's a long time ago.
And she made a record of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned it off the record.
Yes.
And then I got the music.
Solid, yes.
And it was what they call an under-the-counter piece.
Okay.
They didn't have it on the rack. You had to ask for it.
Oh, different times. Ah.
So I did this. I suppose you want to hear part of that.
I'd love to.
Oh, Lord. He shakes my ashes, greases my griddle, churns my butter, strokes my fiddle. My man is such a handy man.
Aww. Oh.
But when I was 14, I was sent to a psychiatrist by the school.
Whoa. Okay, I was there too, but not by
And
school.
I went maybe 8 or 10 times every week to the psychiatrist.
Okay, that's much.
And the last session, she told me I should become a female impersonator.
Yes, but why not?
So at the time I thought it was sort of funny, you know. And later on, I said, that is a good idea.
Yes.
Yes.
Should be you.
I could be myself.
Yeah.
I was young and I looked adorable. Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime man. Send me a kiss by wire. Dearie, my heart's on fire. If you refuse me, honey, you'll lose me. Then you'll be left alone. So, baby, telephone and tell me all is your own.
Aww.
Oh, I'm glad I was young when I was young.
Okay. Oh, shit.